I'm not sure I've ever seen a player continue to look so lost on the ice over half a season into, and just not look like he has teammates, not know what he's doing with the puck. It's like he's the kid who panics every time he touches the basketball when he's in fourth grade. Like, what do I do with it? And he throws it into stands, right? That's Jack Johnson in a nutshell.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Donut Bag, part of the Pod Hub Network. In this episode, I welcome back Nick Vucic from Pens Labrynth, and we talk about the latest going on with the Penguins. They beat the Flyers last night. Does that mean all is well? I don't think so. Oh, and see if you pick up on what particular player on the Penguins he's not that crazy about. It's not very subtle. The Donut Bag starts right now. The Penguins had lost 4 in a row, but last night they beat the Flyers in convincing fashion. With me to talk about it is Nick Vucic from Pens Labrynth. How you doing, Nick?
Not too bad. How are you doing?
Doing all right. Penguins looked pretty good last night over the Flyers. But before that, they didn't look so great. What did you think about their win over the Flyers?
Well, it made the difference that Malkin was back, right? It's so glad that we can count on him to be in the lineup every game.
Whoops.
Yeah, so, they looked like a much different team offensively. Defensively, the only reason I felt they were in the game was because Murray stood on his head at several points and stopped onslaught after onslaught of Flyers offense. Murray was the lone man standing in the defensive end. But it's a start, right? And it was 2 big points against a team that had been trying to make up some ground. That could have brought the Flyers within 4 points of the Penguins. Instead, I think it put them to 10? Or, yeah, 8. 8 points. So it's one of those things where Penguins knew they needed the win, and it was an all hands on deck effort, but I think it's not hard to see there's still some pretty serious shortcomings with the team, which are only going to get worse without the services of Olimata for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, that hurts. That hurts. Looks like they just put him on the injured list. Doesn't look like a short-term thing. Looks like he might be out long-term. So that's not good. Do you think now they'll trade for a defenseman at the trade deadline?
I think they were already planning on it. I actually wouldn't be surprised to see Tanner Pearson heading out. As weird as that may sound, he doesn't seem to have found a groove, and I think their patience is wearing a little thin with him, which is why you see him bump to the 4th line and just not getting the minutes he was when he first came, and with McCann and Bukestad coming in, it just I wouldn't be surprised to see them go after another forward and at least another defenseman. But they're still going to continue to have the same defensive problems, especially now, even after they get choked back, because they're going to have the anchor on the blue line that they refuse to fix. So, yeah, I think they could pull in, the best defenseman in the league, whoever the best, tradable defenseman is out there, trade target is out there, and I'm not sure it would make a difference with an entire defensive pairing being dragged down night after night.
Gee, I wonder who you're talking about.
No idea. I think when you have me on, you should just call the segment "Nick Rants About Jack Johnson," because it's pretty much what I seem to do anymore. And you know, I've had my issues with players on the Penguins over the years. I think back to Tyler Kennedy or Mark Recchi towards the end of his Penguin career. The players that just hit that nerve, and you're like, okay, either they can play better or they shouldn't be playing. And for the most part, I think Sullivan's been a very good coach in that regard. He gives people a better chance than Bylsma or Johnston or Terrian gave people. And, that's not exactly saying much because, you look at what happened with Daniel Sprong, and a lot of people feel like he still didn't get a fair shot. But I feel that's much better than the chance that Bylsma or anybody else would have given him. So it's a little hard to see what's happening with Johnson because I'm not sure I've ever seen a player continue to look so lost on the ice over half a season into the season and just not look like he has teammates, not know what he's doing with the puck. It's like he's the kid who panics every time he touches the basketball when he's in fourth grade. Like, but what do I do with it? And he throws it into stands, right? That's Jack Johnson in a nutshell. He has no composure. And when he looks like he does, he'll have the puck with time and space. He'll hold it until somebody's right on top of him, and then he ends up turning it over. I think I saw quite possibly the most telling and probably the best graphic I've seen anywhere recently, where it was talking about goals for and goals against with Johnson on the ice. And there was a few players, I think two of them weren't even with the team anymore, who had a positive rating from that. The rest of the team had a severely negative rating to a moderately negative rating with Johnson on the ice. The effect he's having on the team is both statistically damaging and, if you don't believe in statistics, if you don't believe in, the advanced analytics and you don't care about Corsi or Fenwick or, all of the stats down the line, you can use the eye test to see. I mean, it's plain as day. I don't think it takes a lot to realize he's just not playing good hockey.
And yet they play him every game.
Well, and I recently wrote about this. It's a problem, and frankly, the only answer is probably the hardest thing Sullivan would have to do, and that's admit to his mentor and rival that he was wrong. And
yeah.
He doubled down. When they signed Johnson, Rutherford made the comment that, clearly Johnson's problem was the front office in Columbus. It wasn't Jack Johnson. It was he wasn't being used right, or he wasn't being played right, or Torts had a personality issue with him, or something along those lines. And then Johnson, made the comments about finally playing for a winning club and, on and on. And Torts responded, and Jarmo, the GM responded as well, and obviously didn't take well to that. And the Penguins doubled down. They both in words and action. And in order for Johnson to see some time on the bench, there's got to be something profoundly changing about the way Sullivan looked at this. And the short of it is he needs to put his pride to the side and bite the bullet on this one, because Jack Johnson is not getting better. The Sergei Gonchar School for Misfit Defensemen is not having an effect. And it's getting to the point where it's costing the Penguins consistent points. And, I mean, they're on the bubble for a playoff spot. There's no reason, with what's going on in the East this year, that should be the case.
It's scary. it's scary that we're this late into December, into February, and we're still talking about, wow, they might not make the playoffs. This is usually when the quote unquote switch gets flipped and they go in their hot streak and they have a hot month or something like that. And what are they waiting for, March or April or something? I don't know. It's getting scary.
Well, I mean, as a player, if I'm on that defense, especially if I'm a bubble guy, like, Alexiak, before he got traded, or Ruidel, or you name it, I'm looking and saying, what do I have to do to get that kind of job security? Because there's nothing Johnson can do to get him out of that lineup right now. And they are trying literally every pairing possible with Johnson, and every other defenseman scratched with the exception of Letang and Dumoulin. And I wouldn't put it past them at this point to even try that just to get things going. But they won't scratch Johnson. And it's absolutely mind-boggling. Like I said, I get why it's happening, but that doesn't mean that it makes sense why it's happening. It's one of those things where Ricola has been scratched. Mata was even scratched.
Yeah.
Everybody who wasn't Schultz, Letang, and Dumoulin has been scratched, with the exception of Johnson. And clearly they're not happy with the way things are going because they're playing with combinations of pairings. I mean, the fact that they broke up Dumoulin and Letang to try and fix this over halfway through the season is a major, major issue. The fact that they, as of right now, are not sure what to do with their top pairing because the other pairings are so far beyond repair, it's bad. I mean, name one other team in the league who's considered a contender, who has a solid defense squad, who has the pieces to at least have a decent defense together, who's doing anything similar. And you won't, because they're not. They're teams like Chicago, who are on the verge of trading their top two defensemen from the past few years. You look at it and it's like, they're just not teams that are doing well. And the Penguins are lucky they have the offense they do, which, has been struggling because they can't get the passes forward. They can't get the transitions going. They're spending too much time in their own end digging out pucks. But if they didn't have the offense they did, they'd be far behind Carolina at this point. And frankly, it's entirely possible that, even with Malcolm back, even with Schultz back, they're going to be doing this game for another month plus.
Yeah.
And I think they'll go out and try to get a defenseman. I mean, obviously Muzzin's gone, and Hamilton's probably not. I don't think Carolina is going to trade any of their defensemen because I think they're going to make a playoff push. But even if they do, I don't think we're going to be a top choice for any of them. Cody Cece's probably not going anywhere in Ottawa. There'll be options there, but none of them are going to be much better than what the Penguins are sitting in Chad Rudel or Ricola, or what they got rid of in Alexiak. They're not really going to be that far ahead of the game with that, and unless they find a diamond in the rough, they're going to be in the same situation come the end of the season, fighting for their playoff life.
It's crazy. And and we'll see. Yeah, we'll see what happens when Schultz comes back. But I mean, is it almost just as simple as saying, if Malkin does not get hot again, then this team is screwed?
I don't think that's. I mean, yeah, obviously, if Malkin is not playing his best, the team's going to struggle to some degree. But I think getting Bukestad, getting some kind of lineup consistency on the top three lines is going to make a difference for this team. Even if Malkin's not playing his best hockey, they can hope that